Welcome to How I Rent It, the podcast where we pull back the curtain on the tent rental industry. I'm Tony Ehrbar, the owner of American Tent, one of the leading event tent manufacturers in the U.S. As someone who got started in the event rental industry over 10 years ago, I'm excited to bring you the stories behind the people who keep events running smoothly. Was watching an episode of Shark Tank one night, had a couple of beers, and went on Craigslist, and in Green Bay was a tent rental business.
At the end of the day, failure was not an option. I'm going to do this.
Is this your first time on a podcast?
It is my first time on one, listening to one, seeing one. Yes, sir.
Each episode, we'll talk to inspiring event rental business owners to learn how they got started, the challenges they've faced, and their secrets to success. Whether you're dreaming of starting your own rental business or just love hearing great entrepreneurial stories with plenty of in-tent puns thrown in, this podcast is for you. Stephen has been through the rental industry for over 15 years.
And I was born under a tent.
This is the part where we're going to get into where we're going to have like VP of HR come in and just like okay the questions and answers. What does Ricky Bobby say? If you ain't first, you're last.
That's it. Absolutely.
So grab your coffee, your notebook, or just sit back and relax with a box of popcorn. Subscribe now on Spotify, Apple, or Google Podcasts, and join me as we uncover the journey behind the tent rental industry and how I rent it. Welcome back to How I Rent It, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of the tent rental industry, where we share valuable insights, success stories, and lessons from the entrepreneurs who built their rental businesses from the ground up. I'm your host, Tony Ehrbar, owner and CEO of American Tent. And today I'm excited to welcome our guest and my good friend, Ian Goff, who's the owner of Goff Tents Events based in Nicholasville, Kentucky. I've actually visited Ian's shop. Very impressive. It was really great to meet his crew and staff. Ian has become a well-known leader in the industry, growing his business into one of Kentucky's most trusted names for weddings, festivals, and large community events. Today, we'll hear about Ian's journey, how he built his business, and the values that keep him team-focused on quality and service. If you're looking for real stories about growing rental businesses the right way and what it takes to stand out in a competitive market, you're in the right place. So let's dive in. Mr. Goff, how are you?
Good, Tony. How are you, bud?
Doing pretty well. Good to see you.
You as well. Things good up your way?
Things are good up here. I think we talked earlier. It's pretty hot down there. It's been hot and pretty sunny, but a lot of rain, which, good for people who need tents, brides who need tents last minute. So
Right. We went from all the rain directly into mid upper 90s, hundreds for the last 3 weeks. So it's been tough down here, but our crew's just killing it. Just absolutely amazing what they're turning out week after week. So very fortunate.
Good. So tell me a little bit around how the business got started, number of staff you have, all that stuff. I know your dad started the business originally, so pretty cool to hear a family business. We talked to Matt Mutton last time, and it was a great conversation. So give me the backstory.
Yeah. So my dad was a professional musician, and towards the early 80s kind of figured out that wasn't going to be the way that it went. He had a great run at it and was looking for something to do. He'd grown up on a tobacco farm in rural Kentucky. My mom was a school teacher, and they were trying to figure out, what are we going to do? And in the newspaper, there was listed a party rental company for sale. It was another husband and wife-owned company called Straddling Party Rental. So in the beginning of 1985, they purchased that company and rebranded it as the Party Shop. So I'm 3 years old at this time. So my earliest memories are growing up in the back of the store, a little 12-inch black and white TV piled up on a pile of dirty linens, put me on a milk crate, run the dishwasher. So, it's pretty cool that my kids are growing up the same way. I've got nieces and nephews that are growing up in the store, and just that it's all coming full circle. Worked summers, nights, weekends, holidays and stuff growing up, and now spent 21 years full-time as the owner, presidency, whatever you want to call it. I like to think of myself as the head of janitorial services. So it's kind of where I fit in best these days.
Yeah, cool. You have one location that I visited, and then how many staff do you have?
So we actually have 3 different locations now. So 2020, when COVID hit, we were approached by one of our friendly competitors in town, Purdon Rental, been a long-standing, well-established brand in the community, and they were looking to get out, just wanted to do different things. So they approached us about acquiring the business. So we acquired them in 2020, August. And so basically we kept the name. It was well trusted. And last year we celebrated 50 years of business for them. So very, very cool, very fortunate to be involved with that. And then in 2022, the company that was doing all of our linen work, laundering for us, was a company called Mr. Linen. The owner approached me and he was looking to move out. So we acquired that. So essentially we have 3 separate brands that in a lot of ways compete against each other, but each one complements itself. So collectively between the 3 locations, we have 85 employees currently.
Have you ever watched Parks and Recreation?
I've not.
Okay. There's an episode where they're trying to rent a tent and they keep showing up to the different tent rental companies and it's always the same guy. He like comes out the back and that's his rental company and this is his other rental company. So he's got his little monopoly on the tent industry in Pawnee, Indiana. Completely made up city, but
story of my life.
Yeah. So always part of the family business, or did you go off and do something different?
Coming out of high school, my dad was running that. There was a manager in place. Business was growing, thriving, and I'd worked there in the summers, but there just wasn't really a place for me in that situation. And I had gotten approached by a guy to come work at a used tire store. So I was selling and installing used tires, and I did that from probably my senior year of high school through the first couple of years of college. And the owner was tremendous. I was making good money, loved the people I was working with. I had a career path. He was opening another store. I was going to run that. I was set in life. That was where I was going, what I was going to do. And then one day at the end of 2000, I guess it was, Dad called me and a guy named Doug Lewis, who was the manager, was leaving. He was going to go work for another company, kind of strike it out on his own. He's like, you know anybody that wants to do this? And stupid me, I was like, yeah, I'll do it. I remember I was at Subway getting lunch. I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Yeah. So I went to my boss and like, hey, I'm going to go work for my dad. I'm giving you I think I gave him like a 2-month notice. So I loved the guy. Still talk to him regularly. Great people. And so January 1st of 2001, I walked in the doors and haven't left. They haven't fired me yet.
Yeah. How long did you and your dad overlap in the business and how was it working with family? Because I know some people there's a very wide range of experiences people have.
So my dad technically is not retired. He still does our site surveys. He'll do anything for the business that involves him being close to a golf course or a really nice restaurant. But what I tell people is around 2019, he left for vacation and he just never really came back. He'll tell you he only makes the big decisions, and it hasn't been a big decision to make in the last 10 years. So,
yeah.
But no, we talk daily about it. He's always looking at our dispatch schedule and looking at the jobs and looking what's going on. I mean, he's a tent guy. He's lived this life for 40 years and still loves it and still passionate about it. We were out on a job together last week doing some stuff, and we had a green monster out there. And he's like, I'm pulling stakes today. And here he is, 70-something years old, but he wants to pull the stakes. He wants to use the equipment. I mean, that's what's so cool about this business is once it's in your blood, it's just who you are.
Yeah. Any tips for coexisting with family in the business?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have different experiences. I was really fortunate in the fact that my dad was not afraid to let me screw up. And he was always there to help me. But I mean, he let me screw up a lot. So and I made a lot of mistakes and he helped and coached and guided me. And I remember feeling like I was really starting to figure it out the first time I'd screwed something up on a job and I figured it out like, oh, this is how I'm going to fix it. And I didn't have to call him and ask like, hey, how do I do this? 27 years old. Sure, I would probably be completely different if it's my children just because, so invested and you want to do it a certain way or you want to do this, that, or the other. But it's been a great working relationship. He's much more passive than I am. I've been told I can be slightly overbearing by people. Who knows?
That's fair. I've learned to be less overbearing. So Paige, who's back recording this, I'm sure is laughing a little bit, but I've learned I shouldn't be involved in like the very nitty gritty, try to get this across the finish line stuff. Because if I do, I'm going to start throwing idea bombs in and they want to get this across the finish line. So I'll give my input further up front. Yeah, I don't get in people's way. So when your dad bought the business back in the 80s, how did he fund buying the business?
So my mother was a school teacher. So, we kind of survived on a school teacher's salary. My dad still, I think the first year, there used to be the old flip calendars. My dad probably played more gigs playing music than he had rentals. So, I mean, that was still a large part of what we did to get by. And as he just continued to grow it and evolve it and went through different iterations, like I said, it started as the party shop. Once he got away from the costumes and the paper goods and some of those things, it went to Southeast Tents, which was all bigger tents, structure, fairs and festivals, trying to do stuff for large numbers of people. And so that was kind of that iteration. And then we moved more into where we are today as we rebranded into Goff Tents and Events.
Am I wrong to make the assumption if you're in Kentucky, your dad plays bluegrass music?
No, well, he has played. A lot of it was country, a lot of rock and roll. There was an era where he was playing disco, but a little bit of everything. If you're a musician and you love it, you just kind of go where the gig takes you.
So you talked about 2 companies after COVID that you guys acquired. Some of our listeners are newer. Some of our listeners are probably 5 to 10 years into the business. So how did you think about evaluating those acquisitions? And then also, I don't need like the gory details, but how do you think about funding an acquisition? Because that can be a pretty big undertaking.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd never really thought about it till I was taking some stuff over to Purdon's. They were actually doing some press work and stuff for us. And I showed up, and there was Sam, who was the guy who was running it, and his father was there. And I knew his father had been retired for a couple of years. And he's like, hey, I'd like to talk to you about buying the company. He had a number in mind. I had no real idea. I was working with Dan Crowley with Peer Executive Groups at the time, and I knew he had done some valuations. So he went in and kind of did that work for us and really went through their numbers, looked at it, and figured out how that was going to be feasible. At the time that all happened, oddly enough, right before COVID, I had been working on a SBA 7A loan because we were going to do some consolidation, looking to buy some new equipment, some things like that. Some of that stuff wound up falling apart, and I had the down payment actually available for that, and that was an allowable expense. So that was part of it. Yep. And then we basically just took the money that we were making from that store and just poured it back into it, and we were able to pay that off in just under 18 months. So we worked really hard at that. And then just as we had grown and matured, I've been fortunate that the acquisitions we did were from great owners. So we did seller financing on everything, just negotiated fair interest rates, fair terms, and we worked together, and we were able to make it work with business owner to business owner, which is I think it's the best way to do it. Not trying to involve banks. I mean, there's going to be some lawyers involved with that stuff, but trying to work with people that are like you, I think makes the situation much easier.
That makes sense. You mentioned in their peer groups, other people we've talked to, I think are probably in your same peer group. So maybe Matt, maybe Jeff, but talk to me about getting involved in a peer group, what kind of values like that brings, because the tent rental industry is very collaborative, right?
Right. And this was probably right around the time that you and I had met at one of the shows. Dean Miller and I, who is from Akron, Ohio, we had heard about these BAG groups, what everybody's calling them, business advisory groups. And the ones that were out there, it would be like a Bobcat dealer and a party rental guy and a general tool guy. And it was just all people kind of regionally placed. And we had this idea that we wanted to do something that was different. It was guys that were all party rental guys that were all kind of in the same life path, going the same direction. So we had a great network of friends that's become the flirty group, the pink shirt guys, as they call us.
Easy to pick out on the floor.
Yeah, we're easy to spot, but just a great group of guys. My best friends in the world, people that, I talk to every day, that I seek their counsel and their advice, and, just having that resource available. It's just absolutely invaluable. Couldn't be where I am today without them.
Yeah. So let's shift back to your first event, if you remember it, that you ran on your own for the business.
Yeah, I was trying to think about the first event. I was like, I mean, I can remember probably being like 4 or 5 years old in the back, like dragging my dad's sledgehammer or being able to carry a chair, things like that. Yeah. But the first one that I remember, I think I was 14 years old, the first time I ran a tent crew. It was at Kentucky Horse Park, blue and white, 40 by 60. I had 2 other guys with me because obviously I wasn't old enough to drive. It was full dress out tables, chairs, all the fixings that went with that. So I do vividly remember that one.
How many blue and white tents do you guys have? Obviously in Kentucky, that's probably a popular color.
You know what? We don't that much anymore. We have kind of become a white tent company. There's still a few blue and white 20 wide frames that we get requested for. We have a few other striped tents, but stripes are great for a certain type of event. but anybody will take a white tent. So when you're looking at what you want to have in your inventory and what can be used at a fair and festival, at a wedding, county fair, anything like that, we just have found that the white tent's the best situation for us.
Yeah. Well, you got to sweat your assets, right? So if you got those white tents and they service all the different needs you have, that's the easiest way to make that money back in those tents.
Sure.
So as you were scaling the business, what was one of the biggest challenges you faced as you grew the business?
Not knowing our numbers, not knowing how to price fairly. Dad had a way that he had always done it, and that's how it was. And so we found ourselves, I always call it chasing the dollar. We would discount a rental in slow times to get the deposit money that we needed to get through the next week's payroll. Honestly, that's what it was. And then by the time we got to doing the work, we had discounted it at probably a cheaper price than it should have been. And it was just a constant chasing the dollar, chasing the dollar, chasing the dollar. And we could never really get ourselves ahead.
Yep.
So sat down one day and really started to use job costing and look and say, okay, this is what our house expense is. This really has to be allocated to every single job that we do. I say that numbers, it's going to vary for people, but at 45%, that's my fixed cost. That's my salary. That's my sales team, the warehouse crew, the dish crew, the insurance, the costs that are just going to be there no matter what. And knowing what that is as a percentage of the job and starting to fix that in, and then understanding if I give up 10%, at best case on this job, I might get 30% margin. So now I'm down to 20%. If the guys have a misload or anything happens, you can get upside down really quick. And we were just cheating ourselves. So it was getting educated about our finances, understanding how to read the P&L. What do these numbers on the balance sheet mean? Knowing the health of the business. And that was just that crucial point for me. So,
yeah. How did you go about learning that? Did you have a accountant, controller, or someone who helped you, or was it just getting out there, learning, talking to other people who did it?
Yeah. So, a lot of that was having to learn on my own because, we needed to figure out how to get ourselves ahead. But then after that, it was starting with a peer group and the guys getting together in the room and going through, trying to do it. Then that first meeting that we had where we literally had to just tear it apart line by line by line. And I think we spent like a day the first time. Now we go through this in, a couple hours, start to finish with, 9, 10 people in a room. And, that first time it was painful.
Yeah.
A lot of education to be had.
Yeah. I think a lot of people go out, look at what their competitors price at, and then just try to beat it by a little bit, right? Because then you can say, well, I can get those jobs in. Well, they have a different cost structure than you do. They might have had their tents longer than you have. And so it can become a race to the bottom really quickly if that's the case. So
that's the fastest way to failure right there.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people who get into the business are very operational focused. They're the type of people who can go out, swing the sledgehammer, lead a crew, build a warehouse. But I think one of the most important things is knowing how a balance sheet and a P&L work, because that's the heart of the business. And it can look profitable on paper, or it's a $20,000 job. That's great. Well, it might be a $20,000 job that made you nothing, especially to your point, if the crew's going out and not packing correctly and they have to run back. So how have you dealt with that operational stuff, the making sure people are bringing the right things out on the job? Are there any tips or tricks that you have for that?
I wish I had all the answers for that one. You've got your load list, and we always encourage take extra. If it calls for 4, take 6, try to put extra things that stay on the trucks. We have boxes that'll have extra fittings, extra pins, just things that are there. But inevitably, these guys are out there just busting their butts. And we're a construction business that doesn't get to take a day off when it rains. We work when it's 100 degrees. We work when it snows outside. It's always kind of been a cowboy industry. And so we're not going to be perfect. We try to mitigate it. We try to make sure that we're putting extra things, that we're helping check the trucks, that we're following up. Hey, did you have this? Hey, don't forget about this on this job. We have notes on our dispatch calendar. Our sales team does a tremendous job of trying to get that extra information. So I feel like the more information we can get our install crew, the more successful they're going to be. And if we come out and we're prepared and we're organized, the client's going to be more comfortable. If the client's happy, they're going to be nicer to the guys. We just want to do everything we can to try to make it as easy as possible for the guys who are out there busting their humps.
Yeah. You mentioned dispatch system. Are there any software or other tools you guys use internally to make life easier on the sales team, operations team, warehouse team?
A spreadsheet guy. I love a good spreadsheet. So all of our dispatching is still done through Google Docs. I love it. I love the cloud-based, if something needs to happen, I can put numbers to it. I can put it in a spreadsheet. I've got a spreadsheet for that. I'm that guy. I love it. And it just started when we started going to multiple stores. It started as a way for the sales team to be able to see the capacity. It's like, oh, we know we can have this many slots, so I can't book this. And now it's evolved into, we kind of slot crews in there. Maybe not the person, not Tony's crew and Ian's crew, but Tony, I have a crew number 1 that's capable of doing X, Y, Z, and a crew number 2 can do this, and all the way down through our different crews. So when somebody calls and they want a quote for something, it's easy for any person to look and say, oh, I don't have any crews that can do a 40 wide today. So could we do this on Thursday? Can we do this on Wednesday? Can we pick this up on Tuesday? Or are you going to be done? Can we get there on Sunday? So it started as that tool and it's really evolved out. We've had managers and people in our sales team that have just added and helped get it where it is today.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people use dispatch modules within their point of sale system. There's other things like that people use. This is just what has been effective for us. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. No, over here at American Tent, we always try to sell us ERP systems, these huge multi-$100,000 software. And for us, the system we have works perfectly. And a lot of it is done in that fashion. So I feel like some people try to push themselves to do what others do. But if you got a system that works for you, kind of continue on with that. So talk to me a little bit around what your inventory looks like. Like what kind of things do you have back in your warehouse, from like tents to what are like the bigger runners of other products?
So we try to be a one-stop shop. So that means we've got the dish, we've got the glassware, flatware, the catering equipment. We've got all the linens. We've got the tables, the chairs, the stages, dance floors, chandeliers, lighting packages. We really don't want to say no to a customer. If our good customers call and they're like, hey, we want XYZ. Hey, I don't have this, but I got a source. Let me work and try to get that. We want to be that one-stop shop, that place that they can go and get whatever they need and just trust it's going to be taken care of. So, but we're still tent heavy, do some long-term stuff. We've got a mix of structure, pole tents. We still do West Coast frame because we're a weekend warrior business. No matter how big we get, that's really a sweet spot for us. Being able to go in to the backyard or where it is, set it up on that Thursday or Friday, Saturday, pick it up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, make sure it's clean, take it back out the next week. We'll never get away from the roots of who we are.
So say I gave you $15,000 and said you're starting a new rental business. How are you using that money from an inventory perspective to try to start making as much as you can to be able to then expand your inventory from there?
I would get 2 sectional 20 by 20 frames, and then I would get the build out the frame structure for 20 by 40s and 20 by 30s. So I'd have 1 20-foot mid, 2 10-foot mids. That would give me the opportunity to have everything from 2 20 by 20s to 2 20 by 40s on any given weekend. White, probably go ahead and get cathedral sidewall. If you're going to get a wall to start with, feel like that can be universal. Anybody that wants a wall would accept that. 8-foot banquets, 5-foot rounds, and probably a white garden chair, padded chair. So it's a little bit nicer. Can offer that at a lower cost point if you need it, if it's sitting there. But you've got that wedding chair that they want. So I think that would give you the opportunity to be able to do everything from small fair, barbecue, graduation parties, up to a wedding, and have that expandable option.
Yeah. Having those 2 tents that can be expanded means you're able to use it every single weekend, right? Back to that, trying to get back to a break even and paying off those assets as quickly as possible. So would you be the type to go, let's try it on the weekend, let's use some family members and then see how it goes? Or are you a jump in, both feet kind of guy?
So just to clarify, that whole using the family on our payroll right now is myself, my wife, my father, my mother-in-law, my sister-in-law, my niece, my father-in-law from time to time, my stepdad from time to time. So
Yeah.
we're very, very family oriented. And I think you can't do this without a great family system around you. But I think if you're going to do it and make it work, you almost have to start on the weekends and have an income, right? That you can live off of, take the money that you make from this business and continue to reinvest. I mean, my dad taught me early on, we're never trying to get rich doing this. We want to, grow the business. We want to be able to help support the lives of our team members, of our staff, and make sure that they've got a good life, that they can support their families, that when they're going out and coming home late, that there's a reason for it, that they're making their families' lives better. So it's not just about, being able to go out and make a bunch of money real quick, because I promise you won't do that in this business.
No, I think you'd be a great boss. So I'd come to work for you. I don't swing a sledgehammer very well. There are videos of me poorly swinging a sledgehammer. So maybe
Can you drive a 10-ox?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We're good to go.
There we go. Perfect. You alluded to it a little bit earlier, but what are the kind of 2 to 3 biggest markets that you guys serve?
So, of course, Lexington is right here. Lexington's the second largest city in the state of Kentucky. And then we branch out all through central Kentucky. So we'll go into Louisville, which is the largest market. That's where the Kentucky Derby is, obviously. So we're into that. And outside of that, it's all over the place. We don't really try to focus on one place. We really market more towards the customer that needs our services instead of the market that we want to be in. Because it doesn't matter. In Kentucky, 60 miles as the crow flies can take you a lot of places. So, we find it to be more advantageous to market to who needs our services.
If I took away all of your customers and you had to reopen just servicing one type of customer, do you have a preference between those fairs and festivals, weddings? You going to go weekend warrior? What's your strategy?
Probably the weddings. The weddings, I think it's easier to grow a business on that, because you're going to be doing a lot of your marketing and growing and bookings in your off season. And that's going to bring in deposits. And let's face it, we all need to generate money year round in a seasonal business. So the wedding allows for you to take in deposits to be able to pay your payroll, pay your insurance, pay your staff, whatever your expenses are, those have to get paid. And then when you get to it, typically there is add-ons and those tickets grow, and they happen week after week after week after week. A big 6-figure corporate build, big thing like that. They're tremendous. We love those.
Yep.
And we do them very well, I feel like, but they happen once a year. You got, how many of those do you have to be able to feed the beast? So I think there's a nice niche to that, but we try to stay involved in all the aspects, the corporate, the weddings, the backyard. During the times of COVID and social distancing, I was the king of the $600 20 by 30 back, whatever I could get. We were in there doing it. There's a picture on Father's Day. It's my dad, myself, and my son out there, doing a setup together. It's like, this was the crew we got. We can make a couple bucks. Let's go.
The reason it was convenient for me to visit your shop was to go, to the Bourbon Trail. So are you required to be a bourbon drinker if you live in Lexington?
No, we just probably won't be friends.
Fair enough. Do you have a favorite bourbon?
Free. No, there's a lot of great ones, and there's so many craft bourbons and small distilleries popping up around here all the time. Just people making some really good, interesting, different things. It's an exciting time for that industry around here. So it's cool.
Yeah. There was an interesting place I went to after I visited you near Frankfurt called Bourbon 30. And the guy just had, and he built more to this, but he had this warehouse building and a shipping container, and it was filled with barrels he had bought at market. And you go in and sample and then make your own bottle. And it's like $75. It's probably more now, but the tasting and sampling portion of it was,
it helps encourage the buying part, doesn't it?
I don't know which ones I want to buy 100 of the bottles. They taste so good. How do you make decisions on new products or services that you want to add to the business? Is it going to the ARA show? Is it from that group you talk to? Where do you make those decisions, or how?
So it's multifaceted. Definitely going to the show to see what's there. We're always there kind of, research and development when we're there. What's out, what's new. I'm always talking to the guys in the group, what are you seeing over here? What's big in your market? What's new? What was big that's not big. But I think number one is just listening to our customers. If you called and you're like, hey, it's Tony, gold Shivaris, and let's just say we didn't carry that gold Shivari. I'm like, no, I don't. Well, I'll go get it for you. But 2 weeks later, somebody else says, hey, do you have gold Shivaris? It just, when you start hearing those requests, it kind of making that little mental note, like, hey, we've heard about this. And I'm asking the sales team constantly, like, any new things that you're hearing. And they're great about telling me, like, hey, had a customer that asked for this. What do you think about getting it? Then we have to look at the cost versus the return. Sometimes we're able to go get it just for one and have it, and have parlayed that into being very successful. And sometimes we swing and miss still.
So any common fatal mistakes you've seen other rental businesses make that you think would help our listeners?
Yeah, is what we talked about. Looking at what your competitors' pricing's at and setting your pricing because of that. No faster way to fail than not knowing your numbers. What do you need to make your business successful? What kind of cash do you require? And, I don't care if my competitor charges $1 a chair. If I need $2 or $2.50 for that chair, that's what I have to charge. Because if I do it out for anything less than that, then I'm just going to lose money.
Yep.
And there's seasons for that too. I understand the seasonality that we do have delivery minimums May and June, September and October. Later part of July and August, it's really hot, slows down here. Yeah, but we still have staff. They're cleaning, repairing, getting things ready. But if somebody wants 2 tables and 25 chairs, yeah, we'll deliver it to you. It makes sense for us to do that during that time period. There's just certain times that we can't. So
makes sense.
Just understanding the cycle of your business.
Right. All right. We're going to do some rapid fire rental specific questions. So what is one tool or piece of tent equipment you can't live without?
My staff. 100%. I mean, we have the best team. These guys, they're just phenomenal. Like no matter how difficult the situation, the weather has been or whatever, they're out every day. Just, we make a promise and they deliver on it. And just time after time after time, like super, super proud to be affiliated with those people.
One small item that is in the glove box of every one of your fleet vehicles.
Zip ties. Love zip ties.
I was joking on the last couple of podcasts that I might start a zip tie business because I mean, if you did the bottoms up math on how many zip ties the tent industry uses, I think a couple interviews back, someone said the tent's held up by straps and zip ties.
I've zip tied a tent back together before. That's not a joke. Got hit by a storm and it was up and it was kind of near a lace line and zip tied it, taped it, whatever it was, just to get through that event or whatever it was. So, but we probably buy them 10,000 at a time. No joke. Like this industry is definitely, I don't know if we could do without them.
Which brings up an interesting point. So you do all this rentals, but if someone is nearby you, you also make some of your own parts and pieces for the tents, but you do repairs, right?
Right. So we do have a manufacturing division, which helps services our needs. So if a customer calls and they're like, we want this particular thing or whatever, we're able to do that, pull it off. If we oversell ourselves on sidewall, we can make it and produce it. We want to try something new and different, we can do it. But we do a lot of custom enclosure work. So people who want to do patio enclosures, things like that, we do work for them. And then, we do a lot of repair work on other people's tents as well. So it's a nice piece to have because, there's 2 types of tent people. There's people who have had a tent go down and people who will have a tent go down. And inevitably you need to be able to get that thing fixed and back up in the air as quick as possible.
Yeah, you guys get some weather down there in Kentucky. Probably a lot more recently too. So let's talk about funny moments. What's the most unusual or surprising request you received from a client or something bizarre that was left behind at an event?
Most unusual request, when we did the acquisition with Purdon's, they had a mannequin in the back of the warehouse. And this was scary. Like you'd walk around the corner and like it was just there, And somebody called one day and they're like, do you all rent mannequins? I'm like, who calls a party rental company looking for a mannequin? That was one. And 2, somebody called looking for a refrigerator. And my wife rented our light lunch refrigerator. Literally ran it out the back.
Get it done for the customers.
The answer is always yes. We just have to figure out how.
So let's step back to then most memorable event or project you've been a part of.
We've got to do some really, really cool stuff over the years. President Trump came to Richmond. We did the tent where the motorcade pulled in, where he got out. and I was there, pulled the curtain back, closed it. He got out and walked in, so I got to do that. We've been part of PGA tournaments. We've got to do some pretty large scale music festivals over the years. One of the other cool ones, there was a women's professional tennis tournament. Here is actually in Nicholasville, where our office is. And it was the last match that Venus and Serena Williams wound up playing against each other.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
We did the tents for that. So we've just, and there's a lot more like that, but just this business puts you in some really cool situations. So,
yeah, well, I mean, you are very often doing something for one of the more memorable parts of a person's life or a very memorable experience. So yeah, it's pretty cool. All right. What is the most rewarding part of running a rental business?
When you get to do, you get to change people's lives, or help, because sometimes the people that come to us in this business are not, 4-star academic college graduates. I mean, there's people that they want to come to work. They want an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. And you see, I had guys that started out with this 10, 15 years ago, and we paid them $5, $8 an hour, whatever it was when we could afford to do it. And seeing those guys being high level crew leaders, running big jobs, making good money, having those things for their families. And now some of their kids are working there. I've got 2 of my long-term employees that their sons are working in the business now. Yeah. So really, really neat just to see not just my family be involved in this, but our team, and it just builds out. And it's so cool to see the impact that it's made that they want to bring their kids into it as well.
I love that.
It just speaks to the quality of the people that we get to work with.
Yeah. Yeah. Our mission here is to empower people to be the best version of themselves. I mean, just like you said, you get people who've come in, they've had bad jobs, they've been on hard times. And so you can bring them in, help them find what they want to do, get them excited to come to work and allow them to be able to support their families. That's, awesome. That's a really great feeling.
Yeah, it's the best part of the job.
Biggest risk you've taken and how did it turn out?
Definitely the acquisitions, not knowing how, the first one, not knowing how to do an acquisition, knowing we were going into an established brand, but there was no revenue on the books when we took it over in the times of COVID. And then in the second one, even though it's a complementary piece, going into industrial laundry, it's a completely different world, and trying to bring those party rental elements and quality and ideals into industrial laundry. That was a scary situation. There were a lot of lost sleep, a lot of, being awake 4:00 in the morning, thinking that I had to run in there and get to work 3 hours where everybody else had to figure it out. And earned all the gray hairs on my head.
Fair enough.
But it's been great. I wouldn't change a thing. It's all worked out for us in the end, and we're beyond blessed.
All right, we're going to jump into some fun rapid fire non-tent rental questions. So if you could open another business completely unrelated to the event rental industry, what would it be?
Actually kind of working on this now. It's a distillery.
So I will be your first customer. I have a feeling it's going to be good.
Yeah, we're a guy who's been named Master Distiller of the Year, left the company he's with, starting his own company, and part of the group that's behind that. It's going to be some pretty cool stuff. So we're excited.
Okay. When is the launch?
Still working on that. But obviously just getting it going, we've got to get the fill and get it going. So, from having product on the shelf, we're still 4.5 years away from that. But there'll be some other things that we do with the brand between now and then. So when Bourbon Heritage Month happens, there'll actually be a initial offering there. So,
yeah. Well, I guess people don't think about the fact you got to age that bourbon, right? And so to get started, that's a long lead time until you can get to market.
Right.
Some pre-marketing, if you've already announced the name, what's the name of it?
So the name of the distillery is Eastern Light, but you actually won't go to market and buy Eastern Light bourbon. So the goal of this distillery is going to be like MGP or Green River or Bardstown Bourbon, to be a supplier for other bourbon companies. So hopefully we will be supplying fill for 8 to 10 different smaller companies who are looking for a high quality product. That they can have it. There'll actually be space in the distillery where they'll be able to sell their product. So if you want to come in and you want to go do a tour and a tasting, and I have this small micro distillery, you can come to Eastern Light, show the process off, meet the master distiller, all that. We're not going to hide any of that. We're going to make that available to everyone so they can really see the process and how this all works. So it's going to look like a Buffalo Trace, even though I'm just a small brand over here, and it's going to be some really good stuff, some really innovative thoughts and ideas. So I'm excited to be part of that.
Do you guys have a standard mash bill you've been working on? I'm a weeded bourbon kind of guy.
There's going to be some different things based on our master distiller hasn't really given us the official, this is what it's going to be. He came from Peerless Bourbon. So if you've ever tried Peerless's Double Oak, if you haven't, I'd recommend it. But that's going to kind of be the standard jumping off point. It's going to be some good stuff. So, but there will be different variations based on the needs of the client. So not going to just stick to one thing and ram it down people's throats.
I think Darren Randall, if you know him, was going to be a comedian. I think he actually has a show coming up. That's his debut comedy tour. So he was a very entertaining person to talk to a couple episodes ago. So if you haven't watched that one, people should go back and watch that.
He's a sharp guy, I can imagine.
Yeah. What is your favorite interview question for someone you're interviewing for a position?
Tell me a little bit about yourself. I feel like it's just a great way to open up a conversation to get people to let their guard down and see who they really are. Because at the end of the day, you can come put a great face on for somebody, but you need to know who they are as a person and how you're going to be able to interact with them. And, people who put on that fake front sometimes in those interviews because they're trying to get that job. And then you realize, like, this is not a good personality match. So I think just getting to know them is really important.
All right. So if you had a theme song that played every time you entered a room, what would it be?
This was probably the hardest one you had on there. I was like, golly, I love so many songs. Maybe A Day in the Life by the Beatles. Because, it's always just another day in the life. Or on the bad days, maybe it's Only God Knows Why.
Fair enough. What is your go-to fast food option if you're running a little late between jobs?
Subway. Big Subway guy. I love a good sandwich. It's tough to beat.
Favorite sandwich?
Oh, chicken bacon ranch.
Okay.
Extra banana peppers.
Can't go wrong with
like the garden salsa sun chips. Maybe throw some oatmeal raisin cookies in there from Feeling Sassy.
Okay. Favorite or most gifted business book?
I don't read. I'm that guy. I'm not.
You listen to
a lot of podcasts. I think it's great that there's been several industry podcasts that have come out here recently. I love all of those. I listen to those. Listen to the Dave Ramsey stuff, business leaders, marketing, people talking about AI, people who are talking about social media, different sales ones. I don't have a particular one. I kind of just jump around and look for something that's interesting. I spend a lot of my days driving around. Just store to store, site to site, whatever it is. So I do a lot of listening.
Okay. I just added in my interview questions here or podcast because, if you're driving around a lot, maybe you're listening to books on tape, which they're not on tape anymore. Books on Audible. I say that all the time, and I'm like, I don't think I've had a tape player in a car for a very long time, but that's just like how we learned back in the day.
You still pop in a good VHS at night?
Betamax.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Classic.
If you had a gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, not selling your business or not promoting, getting a message out to the millions, what would it say and why?
Life is tough, but it's even tougher when you're stupid.
Give me the story behind that.
I heard that when I was young, and it's true. Like, just people do stupid things. It happens when my kids are with me all the time. Like, just don't be stupid. Like, you just see people, they might as well just be pounding their head up against the wall. Like, why do you do this? Like, don't be stupid. Just take a minute and think through the situation. Smart people do dumb things. I do stupid things all the time, but think through the process, people.
All right. So if you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be and also why?
I had a couple interesting ones on this one, but I think it'd be Julius Caesar. If you think of what a forward thinker he was, and if you know about him, he was a lawyer, a politician, a general, and just look at the evolution of Rome during his time and things that didn't happen again for hundreds of years afterwards. What he was able to do there, and to be loved by people. I can't even get people to listen to me, even my kids, but I think he's a really interesting historical figure. So I would like to pick his brain.
Yeah. We just went on a family trip to Rome and got to see the Colosseum, and it was built in the year 80. And I just like couldn't fully process the fact that this place held 80,000 people, same as Lambeau Field here in Green Bay. They had a sailcloth structure that went around the entire side with like 235 wooden masks that came out. And so it was a partially covered stadium in the year 80. So
no steel, no electrical tools. I mean, but even that, I mean, the sewer system, the way they were bringing water in. I mean, there was a reason, you know, they say Rome wasn't built in a day, but as a society that empire lasted for so long, it was the way that they looked at things and processes, and they were doing things differently, you know, long before the rest of the world caught on to it.
Yeah. I like that, doing things differently. I mean, that's how you get ahead. That's how you keep it interesting, right?
Yeah.
All right. A special talent or most interesting thing about yourself?
It's a special talent, but I did spend a fair portion of my life as a professional musician as well. You know, out on the road with 4 other stinky guys in a van trying to be a rock star. Got to meet some really interesting and fun people and play with, you know, some real rock stars. So that was a cool part of life. And I was lucky that the business was at a point and Dad was there that I was able to go out and do that at that time and allowed to do that and still, you know, get a paycheck when I was there.
Could I find that band on Spotify?
Probably not at this point. I mean, the last one that really made a run at doing it that wrapped up, you know, end of 2008, early 2009. Regionally successful, probably sold about 5,000 copies of our CD at the time. We had a single that was on like 13 different radio stations. So we had, you know, Kentucky, Ohio, Tennessee, out into Missouri, and some through that area down into Georgia, where we had a nice circuit that we could be on, and we had some really cool bands. So it was fun.
Well, if you can find yourself on YouTube, when this is posted on our YouTube channel, you have to go drop the link in so everyone can listen. Did you play guitar? What did you?
I played bass, sang backup. So I've always been a bass player.
Okay. So then let's get a final thought and we'll take it out from here. So any advice for someone listening to this who's just starting a tent rental or event rental business?
This industry is not for the faint at heart. It's hard work. It's long hours. It's awkward hours. It's, you know, being able to meet the demands of the customer. It's saying yes when you don't want to. It's the hardest, one of the hardest jobs in the world, I think. You know, it's mentally taxing, it's physically taxing, and it's immensely rewarding. I mean, my family and our lives wouldn't be what it is without this industry. I wouldn't have the friends that I have. I wouldn't get to go the places and do the things I do if it wasn't for this industry. You know, I say it over and over. I'm beyond blessed to get to do what I do and work with the people that I work with every day, and be with my family and have my children grow up in it the way that I did. So,
and you've stressed over the time here on the conversation, being smart about it, right? That makes it a lot less stressful if you're doing things the right way, if you're pricing things out. And so, owning your own business, very rewarding to be able to impact those people's lives. So great. Anything else you want to add, or I can take us out?
No, I appreciate you having me on, and I love what you're doing. I think the industry needs these outlets, the ability to hear what other people are doing and hear other people's stories, and have those people to be able to connect with when they need to ask those questions or you learn how to do something. I've always said this is not the kind of job where you can just jump on YouTube and figure out how to do it. I mean, it takes a lifetime of experience to be really good at that. And, you know, I'm learning that every day. So very fortunate.
Yeah. ARA has a bunch of good resources. I always want to pump up ARA, the ARA resources like insurance, a lot of in-person trainings. We do 10 schools at American Tent. There's a lot of good education videos, but being able to kind of round out all that training stuff and then learning from your peers. So cool.
All 3 associations, I think, do a great job. So, I mean, we're lucky to have, you know, ATA, MATRA, ARA, and now they're working together on these professional tenting segments and how they're going to grow that and how it's going to kind of hopefully legitimize what we do more. So people will perceive this not just as a summer job, but, you know, as a career path and as a real opportunity. You know, because it is.
Great. All right, man. Good talking to you.
Good talk to you as well, man. Thank you. Have a great day.
So want to start your own rental business? Visit americantent.com/tent rental and download our guide on 7 steps to start your own tent rental business. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe, leave a review, or share it with a friend. For more great content, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn. And if you want to be a guest, email marketing@americantent.com. Or if you have questions that you want to hear people answer, would also love your feedback there. So thanks for listening to How I Rent It. And until next time, keep things intense.